Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. AITA for calling my ex crazy when she asked for an invitation to my upcoming wedding. To give you some context, my ex and I were together for over 10 years. She was emotionally, verbally, financially, and abusive at the time, would use as a reward. She began behaving strangely around 6 years ago, concealing her phone and going out a lot with her friends, among other things. During that time, my father lost his job, so we moved in with my parents to assist them financially, but after about 6 months, she informs me that she is leaving me. At this time, I couldn't care less. It had been about a year since we wouldn't touch. She was simply someone I shared a bed with, so I told her, that's okay, when will you out? That Saturday she was gone. She was also cheating on me with a colleague and became pregnant as a result. I should mention that I'm a lesbian, so there's no way it's mine. She was working in retail for a chain that has since gone out of business at the time, but I heard through her brother that she is now working for 7/11. I obtained a new job and met my now fiancé around a year after we split up, and I've never been happier. Now, to the story. I go to a 7/11 around the block from work approximately 3 times a week, maybe less. I ignored her the first time I saw her, but the second time I came in, I asked another employee whether she worked full-time at that shop. I simply asked because if she did, I'd prefer not go there since she's someone I'd like not see again. She turns out to be a supervisor, thus the likelihood of seeing her is low. I've been coming there for 2 years and have seen her 3 times. During those 2 years, I got to know the staff and told one of them about my forthcoming wedding. I went there for a drink today during my lunch break, observed my ex counting inventory or something, but I simply grabbed my drink and proceeded to pay. The cashier, who I suppose doesn't know she's my ex, asks me how the wedding preparations is going. This is when my ex rushes up to me and asks whether I'm getting married. When I answered sure, she burst out laughing. How can I be married without inviting her? She insists on a table for herself and her family. I couldn't help myself. I laughed in her face and called her insane. I told her I'd never ask her to my wedding and that I didn't want anything to do with her. I informed my fiancé about what occurred, and although she thinks that she is clearly not welcome, I should not have called her insane at her workplace. So AITA for labeling my ex as insane. Story 2. AITA for being strict on leaving at the time I said we are going to leave. My guy, 25 male, has a habit of arriving late and unprepared to pre-planned events/gatherings. It may be bothersome at times, but most of the time, it isn't a major concern. When he comes over, he usually says, I'll be over in an hour, and that hour miraculously turns into 3 hours. It occurred on my birthday when he said he'd come over at 10 a.m., but didn't arrive until 12, and it happened again when we were going out with friends, and he phoned 10 minutes before we were scheduled to meet to seek my opinion on a surfboard. He was 30 minutes away at a sports shop. Though it may be inconvenient, I'm not in a hurry, and it normally doesn't bother me except during the following times. We made a vacation to a location approximately 6 hours away from where we are. We were supposed to depart around 6 p.m. after work, but we didn't leave until about 10 p.m., since he was just late to pick me up. We were both incredibly exhausted, so it was one of the worst drives. We had to stop at a rest stop for a few hours to sleep. We woke up at 4 a.m. after a dreadful, uncomfortable sleep in the back of his vehicle, and my dog peed in the car while we were sleeping. We arrived at our hotel at 8:30/9 a.m. and slept for the rest of the day, wasting a full day of our vacation after a highly stressful trip that was much longer than it needed to be, as well as wasting an entire day simply to recover. Knowing this, we are leaving tomorrow for a trip where I will be working on-site the following week, but we will be enjoying a vacation this weekend. However, this particular route is notorious for being congested. If you travel at the wrong time, going across 26 miles of the stretch might take anything from 40 minutes to 4 hours. This is something he is aware of. I informed my boyfriend that we would leave my house at 1 p.m. to avoid traffic. I would want to go earlier, but I know he is not an early riser. We're not coming into my house at 1 p.m. to buy some lunch, carry items down to the vehicle, or use the restroom. We will leave my driveway at 1 p.m., if at all feasible earlier. When I mentioned this, he became irritated and became passive-hostile against me for the remainder of the talk. I recognized this and told him how much our previous vacation sucked since instead of traveling for 6 hours, we spent over 11 hours traveling and then wasting an entire day sleeping it off. He answered yes, he understands, but I'm making the trip unpleasant and making him not want to go at all. 4 hours of bumper-to-bumper traffic, in my opinion, is much worse than departing on time. But he claims I'm stressing him out by establishing such a rigid timetable with such high expectations, which he claims gives me a hole-like tendencies. AITA for insisting on leaving at 1:00 p.m. because I didn't let him choose the time. I might be the AH, although he initially intended us to leave at midnight tonight. This isn't possible since our air only accepts guests between 3 and 7 p.m., and I don't want to repeat the events of the previous trip. Edit, because my vehicle is now in the shop, I will be unable to drive on my own at this time. We usually drive separately to things since we live 30 minutes apart and it takes too long to pick each other up. Update. Hello there. I received a lot of excellent suggestions in response to my article, and I just want to update the situation. My boyfriend arrived to my house at 12:30 with just the prodding I mentioned in the previous article, so I'm delighted that even though he was a little irritated about being tight on the time, he came there and we ended up leaving early at 12:55. We did chat about his recurrent on the way. After giving it some thought, it irritated me that he was late on my birthday and that he was usually a couple of hours late when he came over. I informed him that such incidents made me feel as though he didn't value my time. He apologized profusely and said that he's been struggling to acclimatize to the traffic and the fact that getting anywhere takes a long time. We reside in a huge metropolitan area, but we used to live in the middle of nowhere in the Midwest. So counting commute time, traffic, and his alone time, he was simply having some problem. We agreed that his was annoying and devised the following strategy to hopefully solve the problem. On long road journeys like these, we'll want to depart on time or early. We will arrange to meet at each other's homes at least 30 minutes to an hour before we depart to ensure that we arrive on schedule. On occasions, such as birthdays or excursions with friends, he will schedule the event into his phone 30 minutes before he has to be there, so that if he forgets or loses track of time until that point, he has enough time to travel and get at the event on time. When he comes over to hang out, instead of simply stating, "I'll be over in an hour," since he's a lousy ETA estimate, he'll tell me what he's going to do beforehand so we can both establish a better ETA. For example, him, "I'd like to go home, shower, and go grocery shopping before coming to your house." Me, that seems like it may take around 2 hours, including travel time. As for individuals proposing ADHD, he says he's not sure where to go for now, but he may check into it since he and I never believed ADHD could be the reason of this, but the time when he was due to be at our meeting site obviously indicates to this. Thank you for expressing your point of view. We would never have known. I realize that for many individuals, this may have been a tipping point, but for me, it's one of his few issues. He's been nothing but a terrific boyfriend in practically every other facet of our relationship, loving and supporting me in my objectives and as a human being. So, although I believe some of those beliefs are a little excessive, I appreciate your point of view because it helped me put my foot down and have this talk. Edit. I'd want to express my gratitude to everyone who offered me assistance on the ADHD part of this. Someone in the comments described their own ADHD symptoms, and it sounded precisely like him. I'm also appreciative to everyone who has helped me take the first step in finding a diagnosis. We didn't know where to begin, but this whole discussion was quite useful. Thank you very much.